Welcome back to Travels Large. Today we are in Sitka, Alaska, and I thought I would share with you my 10 tips before booking an Alaskan cruise. The first tip that I have is be prepared for weather changes. The weather here changes all the time. It could be cold, it could be warm, it could be sunny, it could be rainy. So when you pack, you're going to want to pack for that. You don't want to pack all heavy sweaters, but you also don't want to pack gym shorts for the entire trip. Pack something for rain. Definitely something you're going to want to do. The only thing I brought that was warm is this hoodie, and unfortunately it's not waterproof. So there was days I got completely soaked. I did, however, bring an umbrella. And that's something you may want to bring as well. Is definitely bring an umbrella, poncho, something to keep you dry. Otherwise you'll be like me. My second tip is going to be you're going to want to budget. Excursions here in Alaska is what's going to run you. You're going to want to be careful with your money. When you're on the ship, that's going to be your probably cheapest part of getting to Alaska. The excursions is what's going to run you. A typical excursion here in Alaska is going to be anywhere from $100 all the way up to about $1,000, $1,200 a person. Depends on what you want to do. If you want to do a walking tour, you're probably looking at about $100. If you want to fly up to a glacier and hang out with sled dogs, you're probably looking close to that $1,000, $1,200. So the helicopter rides, those are going to definitely be expensive. So you're definitely going to want to set money back for your excursions. My third tip, or maybe question that you may have, can you enjoy Alaska without an expensive excursion? And the answer to that is yes, you can. However, you got to plan carefully. In Juneau, for instance, me and my son rode the city bus of all things to try to make it to a glacier. We didn't plan it, I did not plan it correctly, and we ended up having to take two fairly expensive lifts. Thank goodness in Juneau you can get a Lyft or an Uber, and that's possible to get. But in some of these other towns like Sitka, for instance, where I am today, or yesterday, Skagway, you're probably not going to be able to pull that off. So either be prepared to do a lot of walking, or another way to enjoy is just enjoy the cities themselves. Go downtown, do some shopping. You can find some stuff like that. That's probably not going to be as expensive. Be prepared, think through, plan it out ahead would be the biggest thing I could tell you there. If you're not going to do an excursion through a tour company or the cruise line, then you're definitely going to want to think about planning well in advance. My fourth tip is, can you book an Alaskan cruise last minute? Yes, you can. However, that is something you're going to want to plan very carefully. This is something you can do. I've seen them go for anywhere from $300 a person all the way up. But when you book this last minute, you're going to forego the chance for your favorite cabin, possibly a balcony room, might be stuck with an interior cabin, and you're going to have to be very flexible. Certain cruises do sell out. That is something that can happen. However, you can get a last minute deal if you plan it right, especially if you're in early in the season, such as April or May, or late in the season, such as September. You can find yourself a pretty good deal to get to Alaska, but just playing back to tip number one, where the weather gets pretty crazy and can go either direction. So definitely something to keep in mind. But absolutely, you can book last minute and save yourself some money. And tip number 6 is internet package. Should I get one? Should I not? My opinion, if you are from the United States and you have a US based cellular plan, I would probably say you could probably forego it. Usually most of these cruises will have 3 stops in a city in Alaska, and for the most part, these towns have pretty good cellular connections. So if you need to check your emails, call family, loved ones, what have you, you could do that. It'll save you some money. Typically, like Royal Caribbean's internet package, I believe, is $20 per day per device. So I mean, when you're talking $140 on a 7-night cruise, you could save that money and put that towards maybe one excursion. You might be able to get away with that. So kind of back to the budgeting, is it something you have to have? That's your call. I don't know your specific situation. But here in Alaska, the cell reception is pretty good. So my 7th tip is, can you get seasick? And to answer that, you absolutely can. This cruise here left Seattle, went out into the open ocean before going to the inside passage of Alaska. And during that course, it did get rocky. It was incredibly windy. So if seasickness is something you're prone to, you're gonna wanna prepare with some of the patches, or you can do Dramamine or C-bands, which is something I personally do. That way you can be prepared for that. I'll link those down below. That way you can see what I use and pick up a few for yourself while helping the channel out. So my 8th tip is, think about when you want to go. Alaskan season for the major cruise lines is typically, you're going to be looking April through September. However, high seasons June, July, and August, which those are going to be typically your more expensive months. Your least expensive months is going to be April, May, and then of course September, which September you have the most likely chance of seeing the Northern Lights, which is something that a lot of people strive to do some point in their life, and we are moving, so it threw me off for a second. Kind of depends on what time. Whale watching typically is best May through September, which is typically pretty easy. So pretty much any time's a good time in Alaska. Just got to be prepared for what you're looking for. So my 9th tip is size matters on cruise ships. So when it comes to cruise ships, you're going to want to think of what is your goal. Are you wanting to get in and see the natural untouched beauty, or are you wanting to go for something that's cost effective, where you can go with a large group? Kind of depends. Your smaller ships are going to be able to get into those untouched natural beauty areas, where your larger ships, like the one I'm on, is not going to be able to do that. So that's something you're going to want to think about. You know, do you want to do with a Royal Caribbean, or do you want to do with a National Geographic Explorer, where you're going to be able to go into those kind of untouched natural areas? So my 10th and final tip is the one you've probably been waiting for. What room should I book on a cruise? And that's going to be budget. What do you want to see? Kind of going back to all that. So I personally believe balcony is key in Alaska. That way you can get views like this. However, I'm not on my balcony right now. I'm enjoying this from a public area, which you can get an inside room and enjoy this same view that I am. No extra cost, where balconies typically range anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 more than an interior room. And like the ship that I'm on, Ovation of the Seas, a lot of these newer ships have these virtual balconies, which is really cool too. So that is something that's going to matter to you. I can't make that decision for you. However, if it was my money and money allows, I would definitely book that balcony room personally. If you found any of this information helpful, definitely hit that subscribe button down below. That way you can get more tips and tricks, cruise ship reviews, room tours, things like that. In a small world, travels large. Thank you.